Hello everyone. Let's go over lab exercise 3. In this lab, we are going to learn about the anatomy of heart. What is the purpose of this exercise? We want you to learn the histological and the anatomical structures of the heart and the vessels. And what are the learning objectives? These are the 6 learning objectives. When you are done with this lab exercise, please come back to these 6 points and make sure that you know all of these topics mentioned here. These objectives, they are also your study guide. Many times students before an exam, they want a study guide. For every lab exercise, these learning objectives. These are also your study guides. Let's go over some basic concepts so we can have some background knowledge which will help you to do the worksheet for this lab exercise. Our blood, it flows in vessels in the body. Heart, when it contracts, it pumps blood into these vessels. There are three major types of vessels: arteries, veins, and capillaries. Arteries are those vessels which take blood away from the heart, whereas veins are the vessels which carry blood to the heart. And capillaries, they are the smallest of the vessels, and it is here that the gas exchange and the nutrient exchange and the exchange of the waste products, all the exchange, it happens here at the level of the capillaries. These are the smallest vessels. And you can also see these green vessels over here, which are the lymphatic vessels. In this lab, we are not going to talk about these. We are going to learn about the arteries, veins, and the capillaries. Please notice, as these arteries and the veins, further they are from the heart, smaller they are in their size. The vessels closer to the heart, they are more in diameter. They are larger in diameter compared to the vessels which are further from the heart. And at the level of the tissues, we get capillaries, and capillaries are the vessels where exchange is happening. We have two circuits. We have a pulmonary circuit, which you can see here. These lungs, and they are here so that you can know this is the pulmonary circuit. And then we have a systemic circuit. So these two circuits, and the blood is in a closed loop circuit over here. So the blood, it comes on the right side of the heart, and from the right side of the heart, the blood, it goes into the pulmonary circuit. In the lungs, it is oxygenated and the carbon dioxide is removed, and then from here it comes to the left side of the heart, and from the left side of the heart it goes into the systemic circuit. So this is the systemic circulation. In the systemic circulation, it goes to all the tissues of the body, and where, like I said before, the exchange happens at the level of the capillaries in different tissues. And then this cycle goes on, on and on. From the tissues, it comes back to the right side of the heart. From the right side of the heart, it again goes to the lungs, and then it comes to the left side of the heart, and then it is again pumped to the body. And our heart, it is a pump. It actually consists of two side-by-side pumps. Heart, it has four chambers. There are two atria. The upper portions, they are known as atria. Atria are the chambers which receive the blood from both. So the right side is receiving the blood from the systemic circulation. Left side is receiving the blood from the pulmonary circulation. Then we have two ventricles. The right ventricle, it pumps blood into the pulmonary circulation, and the left side, it pumps blood into the systemic circulation. Now let's move on. Now this is lab activity 1, and in this we are going to learn cardiovascular histology, and these are the learning objectives. It is going to cover objective 1 to 4. And what is this? You have to list the three major types of vessels in the circulatory system. We already did that. Two circulatory pathways, the pulmonary and the systemic circuit, and then map the flow of blood through the circulatory system. We went over that briefly. And then name the cells and tissues on histological slides of blood vessels and the heart. Now we have to look at this objective number 4. So here is activity number 1. This is what you're supposed to do. You have to identify the cells and structures on the slides, and then you have to be able to use this information to do your worksheet. So this is a slide of an artery and a vein. This is an artery. The artery, it is always going to have a circular lumen, and this collapsed one over here, this is a vein. So in every lab exercise you will find these key structures to identify. So you have to make sure that you know. So in this slide we want you to recognize the artery. So this is the artery, which is more circular, and then this is the vein, which is the collapsed vessel, and you can see there is lumen in these both of these vessels. Now this is a bigger slide. Now let's see. This is an artery and this is a vein. So first of all, we have identified the artery and the vein. Now we have to go over the different parts which we can see under the microscope. So our vessels, they are made up of tunica intima, tunica media, and tunica externa. Both the artery and vein, they are going to have these three regions. The innermost is known as the tunica intima. Surrounding the tunica intima is the tunica media. Then surrounding the tunica media is the tunica externa. Okay, so this is the lumen of the artery. I'm going over artery first of all, and then we have tunica intima, epithelium. It is included in the tunica intima. Sometimes there is going to be a subendothelial layer. Right? After tunica intima, there is tunica media. Tunica media contains smooth muscles because remember, our vessels, they can contract and they can dilate. So these smooth muscles, they help them to contract and dilate. And then outside tunica media, we have tunica externa. Similarly, in the vein, the innermost lining which lines the lumen is the tunica intima. Outside the tunica intima, we have tunica media, and then we have tunica externa. You can see here and here. I got this diagram from your Pearson e-text. So our vessels, arteries or veins, they have three in the wall. They have three coverings: tunica intima, tunica media, and tunica externa. So tunica intima, it consists of endothelium and subendothelial layer, and in the artery there is also internal elastic membrane, and this internal elastic membrane, it is more prominent in the elastic arteries. Then as the arteries become smaller and they become muscular and they become further smaller, this internal elastic membrane, it becomes less prominent. So as you can see, the vein also has tunica intima, but the tunica intima of vein is different than tunica intima of the artery. It does not contain elastic membrane. Then we have tunica media. Tunica media contains smooth muscles, and like I said before, these smooth muscles, when they contract, they make the lumen of the vessel smaller, and when they are relaxed and they dilate, they make the lumen bigger. So this is tunica media, and I want you to notice that the tunica media, the smooth muscles in the vein, they are a very thin layer compared to the artery. And then again, in the tunica media, after the smooth muscle layer, in the arteries, especially in the elastic arteries, we can have an external elastic membrane. Then the third, when we come outside the tunica media, we have tunica externa. So tunica externa, it is wider or bigger in the vein compared to the artery, and this contains vasa vasorum. What are vasa vasorum? Vasa vasorum are small vessels which give nutrition to the vessels. And then also notice over here, although we don't have a slide of a capillary, but capillary contains only a basement membrane and endothelial cell layer. So capillaries, they they have very thin walls. Why? Because this is where the exchange is going to happen. So they only have a basement membrane and a layer of endothelial cells. This is also from your Pearson e-text. I put it here just so I can show you like arteries. The elastic arteries, muscular arteries, and the arterioles. So the endothelium is the same. Elastic tissue, it is decreasing as the size of the vessel is decreasing, and then they have different vessels have different amount of smooth muscles. The muscular arteries have the most smooth muscles, and then these are the collagenous tissues. Whereas in the capillaries, we only have endothelium resting on a basement membrane. Then when you come in the veins, the venules, the smaller veins, which are just, they immediately follow the capillaries, the venules. So they have some endothelium and the elastic tissue is missing. They have a layer of smooth muscle. And then the veins, as they become bigger, you can see a little bit of elastic tissue and the muscle, the muscular portion in the tunica media, it increases. Now this is a slide of heart. These are the cardiomyocytes. These are the structures which we want you to know. We want you to recognize cardiomyocytes. Cardio means heart, myo means muscle, cytes means cells. So you have to be able to recognize the cardiac cells. Then these are the features. In cardiac cells, we find a structure known as intercalated disc, and then you have to be able to recognize the nuclei. And usually in cardiac muscles, there is one nucleus is present in the cell. Sometimes two nuclei are present in the cell. Most commonly one or sometimes two nuclei can be present per cell. And then another distinguishing feature are the striations, because cardiac muscles, just like skeletal muscles, they also have sarcomeres. So you can see these lines which are visible, they are known as striations. Now let's look first of all the cardiomyocytes. These are the cardiomyocytes, and they have a branching pattern. See, you can see they are branching. So this is how we distinguish them from the skeletal muscles. They're kind of straight fibrous and they are branching. Then there is one or two nucleus per cell, and then we have intercalated discs. These dark lines between the cardiomyocytes, they are known as intercalated discs. And then you have to be able to recognize the nuclei, which you can see this blue portion, and striations, these are the lines. Intercalated disc, it is a specific feature of cardiac cells. So let's see what are intercalated discs, because we already know about the nucleus, we already know about other parts of the cells. So let's see what are intercalated discs. These are connecting junctions between the cardiac cells, and these junctions contain desmosomes. Desmosomes, they tightly hold the cells together and they prevent them from separating. Then they have gap junctions. These are gap junctions, and because of these intercalated discs, the cardiomyocytes, they act as a functional syncytium. It means that the whole of the heart, it contracts at once. It will not happen that some of the cardiac cells are contracting and the others are not contracting. Heart contracts at once as a single unit, and it is important because when it is going to contract as a single unit, only then it will be able to push the blood into the vessels. Activity number 2, it is about the vessel anatomy and the learning objectives. It covers the learning objective 5, which is name the arteries and veins on the human model. And with every model, we have given you a key, so you have to be able to recognize the structures which are present in that key. This is model of vessels of the neck, and these are the key structures. You have to know where they are located. First of all, let's orient ourselves. This is anterior view. How can I say this is anterior view? These are clavicles which have been cut, and then this is the trachea. Trachea is present anterior to the esophagus, Trachea is the windpipe, esophagus is the food pipe. Trachea is present anteriorly, esophagus is present posterior to the trachea. And this is thyroid cartilage. Thyroid cartilage is present on the anterior part of the neck, and it is very prominent in males. This is known as Adam's apple. Now let's identify the structures. I have labeled this one for you. So this over here, labeled number 12, this is the trachea, right? And this labeled number 10, this is the thyroid cartilage. And this butterfly shaped gland, this is the thyroid gland. We learned about this in our first lab exercise. These are its lateral lobes joined by an isthmus. It is labeled number 13, I think. Alright, so this one is the thyroid gland. Now let's come to the veins. This labeled number 21, this is superior vena cava. And this superior vena cava, this 19 and 20, they are right and left brachiocephalic veins. They are draining into the superior vena cava. Left brachiocephalic vein because it is on the left side, and this is the right brachiocephalic vein because this is on the right side. Remember the vein, it is present to the right of these arteries. We can say it is blue, these are the arteries and this is the veins. This is superior vena cava, left brachiocephalic vein, right brachiocephalic vein. And then this, if I go here, this is right subclavian vein. This is right internal jugular vein. This is right external jugular vein. Internal jugular vein, external jugular vein. Okay. Now let's go to the arteries. So we have here left subclavian artery, left common carotid artery. So this first one will be left subclavian artery. It is going here. Then this is the left common carotid artery. These are branches of the aortic arch. And then this is the brachiocephalic trunk. So this brachiocephalic trunk, it divides into right common carotid artery and right subclavian artery. It is dividing around here. We cannot see it very clearly. All right. Now this brings us to this figure, and these are the key arteries which we want you to be able to identify. Because this is so small, that let's make it a little bigger. Let's start from the heart. So heart is present in the thorax. This is the heart. From the right side of the heart, from the right ventricle when it contracts, it pushes blood into the pulmonary trunk. Pulmonary trunk, it takes the blood to the lungs. Just a reminder, any vessel which is going away from the heart is known as artery. So we classify this pulmonary trunk as artery. And then the left side, the left ventricle, when it contracts, it pushes the blood into the aorta. Aorta takes the blood to the systemic circulation. Please notice that this pulmonary trunk, although it is coming from the right ventricle, it is present to the left of the aorta. Right, aorta is more over the on the right, located on the right side when you see how it is coming from the heart. Okay, now aorta, it has an ascending part, then it has arch of aorta, then it has a descending part. The ascending and descending part are not very prominent in this diagram, but you have to know that when aorta, it comes from the heart, the first portion is the ascending aorta, then we have arch of aorta, then we have descending aorta, and then this descending aorta is going to go down and continue as abdominal aorta. All right, so we are done with the thorax. In the thorax we have these arteries. Now let's go to the branches of arch of aorta. This way it will be easier for us to remember all of these names when we go do it in a systematic manner. So the arch of aorta has three branches. The most right one is the brachiocephalic trunk. This brachiocephalic trunk on the right side, it divides into right common carotid artery and right subclavian artery. Then the second branch of aorta is left common carotid artery. Then there is left subclavian artery. Now let's try to see what we can find here. So this is left subclavian artery, and then this is right subclavian artery. So this right subclavian artery, it is coming from the brachiocephalic trunk. We cannot see brachiocephalic trunk in this diagram. And then we have common carotid artery. This is the common carotid artery. These two, this is right common carotid artery, which is a branch of the brachiocephalic trunk, and this is left common carotid artery, which is coming directly from the arch of aorta. You can see lightly that it is coming down here. Alright, and then this common carotid artery, on each side it divides into internal carotid artery and external carotid artery. External carotid artery is not visible here. It does not go up. It goes to the parotid gland, and it stays in the lower part of the face. So this is internal carotid artery. And the other branch is external carotid artery. Alright, so and then this subclavian artery, it gives rise to vertebral artery on both sides. Because this person has turned his head to the left side, we cannot see the vertebral artery on the right side. So this is vertebral artery. So in the head and neck, we have to be able to find a vertebral artery, which comes from the subclavian artery, from the left subclavian artery on the left side, and from the right subclavian artery on the right side. Then we have to find common carotid. Common carotid on the left side is coming directly from the arch of aorta, whereas on the right side it is a branch of brachiocephalic trunk. And then we have to identify internal carotid and external carotid. External carotid is not visible in this diagram. Alright, now let's move to the limb. Now this subclavian artery, it gives a vertebral artery, right? So because this is left subclavian artery, it is going to give left vertebral artery. I have not written these from the right side, but obviously on the right side also we have right vertebral artery, right? So the left subclavian artery, it continues as left axillary artery. So this subclavian artery, when it reaches near the axilla is the armpit. Here it is known as now axillary artery. This is left axillary artery. This is right axillary artery. Both are the continuations of the subclavian artery. Now this axillary artery, it gives rise to brachial artery. We have left brachial artery, right brachial artery, and these brachial arteries, they give rise to radial artery and ulnar arteries, right? So again, left radial artery, left ulnar artery, right radial artery, right ulnar artery. And then over here you can see this is the dorsal surface, dorsal metacarpal arteries. They also arise from the brachial artery. So these are, there are also other arteries in the arm. These are the main ones, and these are the ones which we want you to know. So in upper limb, you have to be able to identify the axillary artery, the brachial artery, the radial and the ulnar artery, and I forgot to put dorsal metacarpal arteries here. So these are the ones you're supposed to know. Now let's move to the abdomen and the lower limb. So like I said, the descending aorta, it continues as abdominal aorta, and abdominal aorta has some branches. We want you to know renal artery. Renal artery is a branch of abdominal aorta. Please notice this bluish vessel over here. This is inferior vena cava. It is present on the right side, and this is present on the left side. So this is the right side of this person, and this is the left side of this person. Alright, so abdominal aorta, it gives renal artery. Then it divides into two common iliac arteries, right and left. So we have a left common iliac artery and we have right common iliac artery. So whenever the word common comes, it means that it is going to further divide. So the common iliac artery, it divides into internal iliac artery, external iliac artery. Then again, please put right and left for the sides. Okay, so internal iliac and the external iliac. Now in the lower limb, this is femoral artery. And then when it reaches in the popliteal region, this is popliteal artery. Then we have posterior tibial artery and anterior tibial artery. On the dorsum of the foot or the upper part of the foot, this is dorsalis pedis artery. So if if you put your finger in the cleft between your big toe and the second toe, and you bring it back on the surface of your foot, you will be able to palpate this dorsalis pedis artery. This is very important in diabetics whenever, because in diabetics their circulation becomes compromised. So the clinician, they always check this dorsalis pedis artery if it is if they can feel the pulsations. Now in this diagram, we can see the veins, and these are the key veins which you have to be able to identify. Now let's make it bigger. All right. So this, I got the diagram on this side from your Pearson e-text because it was not very clear over here. So now let's see. This is the jugular vein, and then this is the brachiocephalic, and then this is the subclavian. If you look at this side, so this is the left subclavian vein, right? And this is the right subclavian vein. The veins have names almost as similar to the arteries, other than some of them. So this is left subclavian vein coming from the arm, and then this is internal jugular. It is draining into the left subclavian, and then these two, they join with this is the external jugular, I said the opposite, and then this one is the internal jugular, and now this is the left brachiocephalic vein. Similarly, on the right side we have right brachiocephalic vein. So this subclavian, it is further away. This subclavian is going to become the brachiocephalic vein as it comes here. And now you have to notice these two names. If we go to the arm, let's start from here. This is the palmar surface. Okay, so this is the dorsal surface. This is the palmar surface. So there is superficial palmar arch, and then this continues up, and we expect you to know this cephalic vein. Cephalic vein is on the side of the thumb. As you can see here, it is more clear on the side of the thumb. We have cephalic vein. And then on the side of the pinky finger, we have basilic vein, right? And then this is the brachial vein. Brachial vein and basilic vein, they join together. This is the axillary vein. And then axillary vein and cephalic vein, they drain into the subclavian vein. So you have to know the names of these vessels. Now let's move to the lower limb. In the lower limb, this is small saphenous vein, which is more anteriorly. This is the great saphenous vein, which is more posteriorly. And then, just like there were arteries, there is external iliac vein, internal iliac vein, common iliac vein, inferior vena cava. And then these are the renal veins. This brings us to activity 3. In activity 3, we are going to learn about heart anatomy, and this is objective number 6. Name the key structures of the heart on the human heart model. All right. So these are the key structures which you have to know, and please read this, that you must include right or left for any structure that has a right or left designation. Okay, so let's go over these. Let's try to identify these structures. I will not spend too much time because it is labeled. It is also present in your Pearson e-text. Okay, so our heart has 4 chambers. It has 2 atria and 2 ventricles. So this is right atrium, right? And then this is right ventricle. This is the anterior surface. This is right ventricle. Just imagine these vessels, they are dividing. This is on this side is the right ventricle. On this side is the left ventricle. Left ventricle is more present posteriorly. So, okay, right atrium, right ventricle. Left atrium, left ventricle. Okay? And this is known as the apex of the heart. Now the atria, they have auricle and the atrium. So upper portion contains the auricle, and then we have atrium. So that is why you can see auricle of left atrium. All right, so we identified right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium. Now right coronary artery. So this is the right coronary artery. Between the atria and the ventricles, there is a sulcus. Sulcus means a groove. And in that groove, there are vessels are present. So this on the right side is the right coronary artery. And then if you see, this is the left coronary artery. Over top over here you can see. This is the circumflex artery, and over here present more medially, this is the left coronary artery. All right. Now let's see. Now we have to identify the superior vena cava. This is the superior vena cava coming in the right atrium, and this is the inferior vena cava. This is also coming in the right atrium. Then we already identified right ventricle, and now we have to identify aorta. This is the aorta. It is coming from the left ventricle. And then we have pulmonary trunk. This is the pulmonary trunk. This pulmonary trunk, it is coming from the right ventricle, and then it divides into left pulmonary artery and right pulmonary artery. All right, and then the pulmonary vein. These are the pulmonary veins. There are two left pulmonary veins and two right pulmonary veins. They are coming in the right atrium. They're bringing oxygenated blood from the lungs. Now, before we go to the next slide, I just want to give you a little background knowledge. So we have two circuits, systemic circuit and the pulmonary circuit, right? So on the right side of the heart, this is our heart. Our heart has four chambers: right atrium, right ventricle, left ventricle. So the right atrium, it receives blood from the systemic circulation. From the systemic circulation, the inferior vena cava and the superior vena cava, they bring deoxygenated blood into the right atrium. So just notice I have put a little box, no valve. There is no valve here where the vein, it is entering the heart. And then from the right atrium, the blood, it goes into the right ventricle. Between the right atrium and the right ventricle, there is a valve. That valve, it is known as tricuspid valve because it has three cusps or three leaves. Okay, and from right ventricle, then the blood, it goes into the pulmonary trunk, into the pulmonary circuit. Over here also we have a valve. This is known as semilunar valve. And now coming to the left side, from the pulmonary circuit, the blood, it comes to the left atrium through the pulmonary veins. Remember in the previous slide I said there are four pulmonary veins, and these pulmonary veins, all four of them, they open in the left atrium, and there is no valve where the veins are entering the heart. And from left atrium, the blood goes into the left ventricle. Between left atrium and left ventricle, we have a bicuspid valve. This is also known as mitral valve. Okay, and then from left ventricle, the blood goes into the aorta. It goes into the aorta, and between the left ventricle and the aorta, again we have a semilunar valve. Now let's go to the next diagram. All right, now we have to identify these key structures. I will go over them one by one. Let's start from the right side. This is superior vena cava. This is inferior vena cava. They're bringing blood into the right atrium, right? And from the right atrium, when the right atrium contracts, the blood goes into the right ventricle. So this is the valve between the right atrium and the right ventricle. It is known as tricuspid valve because it has three cusps. It has three cusps like this. Now this whitish part, this is known as cauda tendineae, And then this chorda tendineae, it is attached to muscles. These are known as papillary muscles. So these cone-like reddish structures which you can see, these are papillary muscles. And this whitish part, these whitish tendon-like things are known as chorda tendineae. Now, this right ventricle, when it contracts, it pushes the blood into the pulmonary trunk. This is pulmonary trunk. And between the right ventricle and the pulmonary trunk, there is semilunar valve. This is semilunar valve. Now, this takes the blood to the lungs, and from the lungs, it comes back into the left atrium through the pulmonary veins. These are left pulmonary veins and these are right pulmonary veins. Both the right pulmonary veins and the left pulmonary veins, they open in the left atrium, and there is no valve between the pulmonary veins and the left atrium. And from left atrium, the blood goes into the left ventricle. Between left atrium and left ventricle, we have bicuspid or mitral valve. And again, this whitish part, these springs, they are known as chorda tendineae, and then these are the papillary muscles. Now, between the right ventricle, the right ventricle and the left ventricle, this muscular thing, this is known as interventricular septum, right? It divides it interiorly. And let's see, I think we have discussed every, and there is also aortic semilunar valve which we cannot see. So this one, these you can see, this left ventricle, this is where it is going to open into the aorta. So this is semilunar valve. Now this is the arch of the aorta. Arch of the aorta has three branches, although they are not labeled here. This is brachiocephalic, left common carotid, left subclavian. All right. So now in this, let's quickly go over this. This is right atrium, right auricle, right ventricle, and then look at these vessels. These are present where the interventricular septum is. So this is right ventricle, this is left ventricle. This is left auricle, and then this is left atrium. Auricles, they are appendages of the atria which increase the surface area of the atria. All right, and then so these are what we are supposed to know. This is ligamentum arteriosum. In the fetal life, it is a vessel which later on gets it gets closed, and it turns and it changes into a ligament. So this is known as ligamentum arteriosum. Now this is the apex. Now let me go over here. So these vessels, they are running in a groove which is known as anterior interventricular sulcus. Similarly, between the atria and the ventricle, there is atrioventricular sulcus, and this is interventricular sulcus. Because this is anterior surface, this is anterior interventricular sulcus. Now let's look at the vessels. Now this is the arch of aorta, brachiocephalic trunk, left common carotid artery, left subclavian artery. This is ascending aorta. If they had more a diagram here, then we will call this portion descending aorta. Now this is right atrium and auricle, this is right ventricle. Between right atrium and right ventricle, there is atrioventricular sulcus, in which we have right coronary artery on the right side, and on the left side over here there is left coronary artery. This left coronary artery is going to give rise to anterior interventricular artery. This anterior interventricular artery, it is running in the interventricular sulcus, anterior interventricular sulcus, and it is accompanied by great cardiac vein. This blue vein is great cardiac vein, you can see here. And then this circumflex artery, this is on the side. So from the side, this is the circumflex artery. Over here is the left coronary artery, anterior interventricular artery. On the right side, we had right coronary artery. And then you can see these reddish ones are the pulmonary veins, right and left pulmonary vein. And this is the pulmonary trunk, which divides into right and left pulmonary arteries. Now coming to the venous side, right brachiocephalic vein, it is opening into the superior vena cava, and then this is the left brachiocephalic vein. Now, before we go to the next diagram, I want to go over this. So our heart, it has its own intrinsic system. That intrinsic system, it causes the heart to beat. So heart has its own pacemaker. Heart generates its own heartbeat. And this is the system. These are the parts of its intrinsic electrical system. You have to know the names. So this is known as the sinoatrial node or the SA node. This is the pacemaker of the heart. Under normal conditions, pacemaker of the heart, it is responsible for heartbeat. Pacemaker of the heart, it has an internal rhythm of 100 beats per minute, and it is then influenced by the autonomic nervous system, and those so its heart rate comes down to around 75 beats per minute, right? So this is SA node. It is the pacemaker of the heart. It is located in the posterior superior part of the right ventricle, near the opening of the superior vena cava. You have to know the name, you have to know the location, you have to know that what is the intrinsic rhythm of SA node, and after it is influenced by the autonomic nervous system, what is the rate of the heartbeat. All right, so this pacemaker, it generates electrical impulses. These electrical impulses, they spread over the atria. They also go to the left atrium, as these arrows are telling you, and then there is a pathway known as internodal pathway. So from internodal pathway, they go to the AV node. This is AV node. It is located here, a bit close to the interatrial septum. And this AV node, over here, the electrical impulses, they pause for 0.1 second. What is the reason of that pause? The reason of that pause is that before the electrical impulse goes to the ventricle, we want the impulses to spread in the atria, because the electrical impulses, they are followed by contraction. So when the electrical impulses, they spread in the atria contract, and then they push the blood into the ventricle. All right, so then now let's come back to the electrical activity. It started in the SA node, it traveled through internodal pathway into the AV node, then from the AV node it goes to atrioventricular bundle. It is also known as atrioventricular bundle of His. This connects the atria and the ventricle. Now the important thing is these electrical impulses can only go to the ventricle traveling through here. They cannot go directly from any other place. So the electrical impulses, to go to the ventricle, they have to pass through AV node and atrioventricular bundle. So this is present in the upper part of the interventricular septum. This then divides into bundle branches, right and left bundle branch. This will be right bundle branch, this will be left bundle branch. So the electrical impulses, they travel down the bundle branches, then they go here on each side, and now these are known as the subendocardial conducting network or the Purkinje fibers. So when it reaches here, then the heart starts to contract from the apex. So this is the electrical activity of the heart. And if this SA node, it is not working properly due to some reason, then AV node takes over. But its intrinsic rhythm, it is less compared to the SA node. It is it is between, I think, 50 to 60 beats per minute. So but if SA node is functioning, then AV node cannot take over. Similarly, all of these parts, they have intrinsic rhythm, but as we move from here to here, it gets slower and slower. Now let's go to our anatomy lab. Right, now this is again, let's see, this is the superior vena cava, and this where they have labeled 73. Just remember, it is inside the atrium, it is not outside the atrium. So posterior superior part of the right atrium. there is sinoatrial node. Again, it is inside, it is not on the outside. They are just trying to show you the location. It is near the opening of the superior vena cava, labeled number 73. This is the sinoatrial node. And this number 21, this is the right atrium. This labeled number 74 is the AV node. Now this labeled number 20 is the opening of the inferior vena cava. And now this 56, this is the tricuspid valve. So right atrium, tricuspid valve, and this is the right ventricle, labeled number 24. These labeled 59 on both sides, these are cauda tendineae, and these labeled 58 are the papillary muscles. Now let's look at here. On the other side, again, these are the cauda tendineae, 58 are the papillary muscles, 28 is the left ventricle, and this labeled number 67 over here, this is the bicuspid or the mitral valve between the left atrium and the left ventricle. Number 26 is the left atrium, and number 4 is the ascending aorta, 5 is the arch of aorta. And all right, and this 6 and 7, this is the first branch to the right side. This is the brachiocephalic trunk, and then after that we have left common carotid artery. And this labeled number 10, this is the pulmonary trunk, and 12, this is the left pulmonary artery, right? And now let me trace the sinoatrial node. Sinoatrial node, remember this is on the inside, not on the outside. And then AV node, right? Now this is atrioventricular bundle of His over here. These are the bundle branches which they have labeled 1, and then this labeled number 2 are the Purkinje fibers. In figure number 8, this is the superior view, and you can see the heart valves. Please make sure that you identify all of these structures. So let's go over it quickly. So this is the tricuspid valve. Tricuspid valve is between the atrium and the ventricle. And then this is the pulmonary trunk. This is aorta, semilunar valve, and then this is the bicuspid or the mitral valve. Now this is figure number 9. This is heart cadaver model. Please try to identify all of these structures. I will not go over them again. And just to give you a little more information, we got these from your Pearson resources from the PAL. So that's the end of lab exercise. Have a nice rest of the day.